bit of a weird one. We had a bit of a occurrence with technical difficulties, but we're back. Let's just quickly streamline what's happening because we just hopped in as well. Floppy, this is game three. Floppy now is elusive gaming against Ash LeBlanc in a really weird game state where they want to push for lethal and they almost have it. But there's combatants to this, right? Hash. You can probably all out here and resolve, but the problem is that two drop spell, which is somehow two cost, can potentially stop more damage, and
I
you run
think
out of the.
you're supposed to play one all out here and press OK, depending on how far this powder pandemonium is.
Okay. And you just do it on the freeze one as well, right?
Yes.
That
So
means
you
you
play
get
this
run
all
out,
out. You press OK.
and then powder pandemonium should be lethal, assuming that it deals fourth.
Yeah. So like here you play your other all out.
Right. And we have no understanding of if it
Okay.
is
So
lethal with the powder, but it
I'm
should
gonna
be.
assume I'm gonna assume that the
Yeah.
powder pandemonium has had four plunder procs,
It
right?
should be, right? We would never see Floppy not do that, you know? I wouldn't expect the Floppy ever to do that, and he does have it exactly for a bit of a haphazard game. Sorry, everyone, about that, but Floppy retains their streak here with a 16-1 record in Aegis, and even though it was pretty close, finally takes out this game with, for you, might have been short, but for them, probably a bit longer than just 2 seconds. And these monkeys will pop, and that will be lethal from Fluffy Mudkip.
Yeah. For a second, I was concerned because I thought the monkeys did one damage to each nexus, but I'm confusing them with something else. I think.
No, that's like if we swap them out for like corsets.
Yeah. That's what it is. So yeah, Floppy takes this one. Apologies for the technical difficulties. This looked like a really interesting game because usually like the Ash versus Fisamira matchup is very like based around this game of like the Ash player bluffs reckoning, so the Fisamira player needs to uh, focus on open attacks and try to play like a more burn game plan, which is not the greatest into cards like Battle Steel. So the Ash deck like has time to apply pressure, and that like causes problems for the Fisamira player because it ends up being like the sort of race where the Ash player just has more attack than the Fist player. But I'm gonna assume this was well navigated by Floppy because he's my teammate and I'm obviously biased. And yeah, they win. And I do have updates on the set. Chekhov beat OTK Kamilari 2-1. Guda unfortunately lost his set, but that doesn't matter since the other two RPG players did get their wins. So RPG will beat Void Neta in this set.
It doesn't matter if unless you have an ego, but
True, true.
Uh, and like if you're a prideful player, that loss can be impactful. Just to maybe a state of mind, who knows? But as a team, that's good for RPG at least, showing that they should be the favorites. And I don't see why you would ever try and combat that idea of like even a potential winning run. I'm kind of bringing this up in a weird spot, but Hash, I'm just saying it right now. I think RPG has the best potential to maybe win it again. Like we saw back to back with washed up heroes, and I honestly think that I feel like I'm kind of just being super biased there, but I think the amount of prep that RPG does and the shown of consistency is that like it's almost undeniable that they might not have that perfect run again.
Listen, that team is not that good. They replaced the Open champion with Meneja, and they replaced me with washed up Twitch chatter. So they can't be that good.
Who's
Now,
also had a finals of a seasonal before? Has have you done that?
anyways, moving on. No, but like, yeah, I'm very lucky to be part of this team, and I really hope that they do win it. And yeah, I think like they should be one of the favorites. But the competition is very high this time. So we'll see how the season goes. It's a long season, 7 weeks to go. So you never know.
And we do also have another set. I'm pretty sure it is the back setting set as well. So Even though it's been a bit of a short kind of connection, we'll probably be going to a break and try and sort that out for you, and we'll be back as soon as possible. So see you then.
Fellow armsmen, I ask you, will you follow me tonight to break their spine and reclaim what once was mine? Those cravens backstabbed me, deceived me. Never shall I tolerate their crimes again. Now let the hunt begin. Oh, 7,000 souls scared and daunted, such a tale of woe. Not too long ago, this village was a golden scene of hope. Call down the reckoning to bring back hope and peace. Restore our glory to live forever. Bring down the dark regime. I know how to unleash eternal power. Lead us to order. I am the light bringer. Fellow warriors, I ask you, should my campaign come to an end, there's way more to avenge. Oh, 15 million souls living in this realm without much hope. Not too long ago, this kingdom was a golden state of hope. Call down the reckoning to bring back hope and peace. Restore our gloria to live forever. Bring down the dark regime. I know how to unleash eternal power. Lead us to order. I am the light bringer.
Welcome everybody to the final round today of Aegis Esports Glory in Navori. So, if you don't really know, of the last season, they introduced a new type of format in the final rounds, which was backseating, and it was kind of regarded as something really interesting for a new format in this tournament, especially as a team league, and we've got it back this season. If you don't know how it kind of works, it's similar to basically the same format, but instead of having all three players versus the other three, you just have one main pilot, and then they verse the other one with selected lineups, which is also pre-chosen, so they choose it when they actually put their lineups into fruition as well. And yeah, they just battle that out, which is I really like this format, and I really like the addition of backseating because you find probably one of the most intense, skilled sets watching through as a casting standpoint, and it gets really close down to the wire.
Yeah, like it was a blast playing these backseating sets during last season when I was a player in Aegis, and they are so important if you want to be winning because they also have so many shared elements with the knockout format. And you know what's also really important if you want to win? Getting better at the game. And how do you get better at the game? By going on TryMetaFi, which is an online platform that allows players to learn from and play with some of the best players in the world. You get one-on-one private coaching sessions with elite coaches, some of the best Rivers of Runeterra players that we have ever had. And you can book your sessions in less than 3 minutes. It's simply that easy. And I personally have been a part of MetaFi. I am a coach and I have done sessions as well. I love the convenience of the website and I think it's very nice. And if you are interested in getting the coaching from the right players, go to MetaFi and try it out. You will not regret it.
And especially for scrubs like me, it helps a lot. Like I get Sharducks to coach me on Path of Champions, weekly, and I feel like I can fight Nautilus now and keep going through the ranks of Aurelia and Swain and beat all those Path of Champions. So yeah, there's a lot of diverse stuff, especially for Runeterra content. Coaches for whatever you want. I personally go for Sharducks, but Medify, great site, and talking about great things in general is what's coming up with this matchup. We have Tron, which is a group of, I would say, I wouldn't say misfits, but I would say, interesting bunch. You've kind of got a mix of two teams together forming one. It's
Yes.
Donut, previous world's contender. You've got Jan Sports, you've then which was the Stromboli side of it, and then now you've got Monty and Swiffer, who have kind of been scrimming a decent amount and great players as well. Swiffer, person who's actually top cutted one or two times and recently had the opens, versing this new kind of group of esports called the Big Fish Gaming, which I feel like is just a play at Icado and Impacts against Bass Pro Shop. But yeah, nonetheless, you've gotten on the team and you've got some decent players there. I'm pretty sure Wait I'm playing is on this team, and he he is someone you shouldn't really undermine. Like I feel like a lot of the time he was very heavier Demacia based, but he's shown some versatility and has hit multiple top cuts before and is a very fierce competitor.
Yeah, so just to quickly correct you, Annie, Wait I am playing is a good player, but he is in one of the other Big Fish Gaming teams, which are in the same group as RPG. The Big
Oh,
Fish Gaming player to watch out for in this team, though, is Alexander, who just finished top 8 in the last Runeterra Open and is one of the most underrated players in the Americas chart.
my bad. There's too many out there. But Alexander is the one on that team that is the scary bunch, right? Like you
Yeah.
have I I don't want to. You've got Mazda, which is a decent player, and then you've also got a Shero. These are like Australian players, but they probably need a bit more, I would say, kind of like time to get it tiny slightly better, but they love the competition and they still have some background and they can show that what they're here for and learn from the experiences and get better. And look at this, we have the lineup now, and it's LeBlanc Ash. Hash, we talked about this before, but how are you feeling with these ratios? And you happy
This
with this list?
this looks like the most standard list so far out of the three that we've seen, I think. Like, the only thing that's a little different than usual is we're playing a second copy of Flash Freeze, where it's usually a one copy and then you play like a third Brittle Steel. But the rest of this is almost identical to what Grandpa Roji popularized in the early days of this patch. And yes, this deck is very solid, and there is a big merit to bringing this deck because the most popular lineup this week in Aegis was pretty weak to Ash LeBlanc, and coincidentally, the lineup that Tron are bringing is that lineup, and that is going to be very good in favor of Big Fish Gaming. Moving on to the other deck that they're playing Samira Varus with a little series of very like interesting decks. And by interesting, I don't mean like caster talk interesting. I mean like actual interesting decks. They're playing like 2 copies of Whirling Death, 2 copies of Heedless Resurrection, and maybe a little less unconventional than the other two, but also 1 copy of Unforgiving Cold. What do you think of this list, Annie? Because it looks very different from the other Zamira Virus lists I've seen.
Yeah, I kind of it's very iffy, but I feel like it's coming out for a purpose, and maybe they're just really trying to hedge their bets against the most popular lineup, right?
Mhm.
And maybe just slightly be better into the mirror. I mean, you have expanse protection, which is quite nice, and then these heedlesses can kind of get kind of wacky, and then it also helps, against PZ. Like heedlessing your Samira is actually wildly scary. Because like PZ puts all their resources into Samira, and then you go heedless, and then like, oh, now I'm flipping, and then I'm just changing the game. So I really like these inclusions, and I honestly I kind of want to get into it, but we're probably going to see another deck list, and that's Annie Caitlyn. So yeah, a very very combatant against that typical lineup of what people have bought this week.
Yeah, this Annie Caitlyn deck was around in the very early days of the meta as well as one of the only decks that was favored into Samira in its early days. I don't think that's the case anymore. I don't think it's actually favored on data anymore. But this archetype has picked up in popularity because of the lineup we're going to see from Tron's side. Very interestingly, we are playing still the Annie package with Tibalt when I don't know if you guys know this guy, but a very popular streamer named Alan ZQ recently popularized a Samira Caitlyn list, um, which focused more on the giving the flair to quick attackers aspect and focusing more on the tempo. Whereas this is a little slower but plays for a bigger finisher. Interestingly, we see Rocket Barrage. What do you think of that card, Annie, if you have some time to go through that before we go to the next list?
Yeah, we can go through it. I think Rocket Barrage, it's slightly nice, but then again, when you really think about it, it's like, okay, what am I really hitting? And the idea is against aggro, and then you kind of fall short against the only aggro, which is Samira Leona. But then again, it is just another substitute for like a Corsic in a sense where it gains value from that disintegrate. So it's more expensive, but that deal free could be very important. Thinking about it, I would probably just opt for maybe another Corsic, but at the same time, efficiency is very important in PZ, especially when majority of the lists now are just you know jam packed with removal because you kind of have to, as they're very weirdly non versatile. And enough saying that, we are onto the other side of the bracket or of Tron, and a lot more a lot more typical of a Samira Varus deck.
Yeah, this is pretty much card for card what was the most successful list last weekend in the Winter Opens. Um, I'm a big fan of this deck. I do think the list that the opponents brought on Big Fish Gaming is slightly better in the mirror match because there are more combat tricks and there are more copies of stuff like Whirling Death. Um, but again, this deck is really, really powerful. And I think what can end up happening in that matchup, if we do see the mirror, which I don't expect because I think both of these players should be banning this deck, is there are 2 copies of an ending wave in this list, and there's only one in that list. So we might end up getting gassed out, and we might end up winning because we have more draw. Moving on to the next deck in this lineup, it's Queen Aatrox Vayne. This is the second time we see this deck today, and this is also the more typical list. Uh, Again, this deck does like very powerful things. Unfortunately, it just happens to be really, really, really weak into Ash LeBlanc. A little less weak into the other two decks that Big Fish Gaming have brought, but the deck can still win its bad matchups just because what it does on a sheer power level basis is so much like higher than the other decks. So it can still work out, but I would say that like in theory, this deck should be a weakness going into the set.
Yep. And only one Catalysm, but I assume that's all right. You don't really have too much, scout attacking units besides the defectors. And now we are into that Samira list. Uh, You have a lot of weird champion lists going around, and they've opted for the extra cow and the Diana. I don't like. I feel like Diana, the Kale is actually like the worst option. I don't know if you feel the same, Hash, but I just feel like it doesn't really do much. Like, obviously,
She's
yeah,
like Kale is very interesting. Like in theory, she's really like clunky because you're playing like 7/5 drops and it gets like really weird. Um, the reason why I like Kale is because she is essentially doing something very similar to what Morning Light does, but but it doesn't ask for the setup that Morning Light needs to be good. And it's also a unit instead of a spell, which helps you have less of a fail rate with the deck because one of the few ways this deck loses is by drawing too many spells. It's not perfect, but the kill does have a purpose to serve.
and now we get into the ban phase. We're talking about how Ashley Blanc is kind of gonna be the decider in this, this matchup here. And do you just think straight up Tron's just gonna be banning the Ash lineup, the
It's
Ash deck?
really
Sorry.
close. It's really close between Samira Varus and Ash LeBlanc, but I do think you might have to ban the Ash LeBlanc. I think the ban for Big Fish Gaming is very easy. On the other hand, I think they're just banning the Samira Varus deck.
Right.
Yep,
And
there we go.
sure, it's gone. And we got a weird visual. I just realized that. Annie, Caitlyn, and Shurima. What the heck?
That is
Mm,
obviously a production error. We apologize for that. It is a Noxus PNC deck.
no,
Nothing to do
don't
with that.
don't say it's a production error. Like this is the one time if Rosie tunes in, he's gonna be like, "Oh, finally, I can play Caitlyn," because she's Shurima. So I don't know. Let's keep it up. But we see the bans from both, and Samira's Varus is the scariest one on the side of Tron. So Big Fish Gaming just goes, I want that out of there, and it makes sense. Really does have the highest win rate, and Ash on the side of Big Fish is gone as well. We did talk about that, and pretty standard. I feel like the ideas of what I need to ban because I don't really want to be looking for one the best deck and two the best counter to my deck.
This makes perfect sense. I think like the way Tron should try to win is by 2-0ing this Annie Caitlyn deck because frankly it is a little weaker power level wise, but it's not going to be an easy time for Tron in this set. And it will be interesting games because all of these matchups require very intricate play and they're very punishing decks for all of the players involved.
Yeah. And hopefully we get in it soon. But like, what else could we really talk about? I mean, like the Diana was kind of what I wanted to touch on because not much people are playing Diana, but it's a very interesting card because it's like a pseudo Samira in a sense. We're only using Samira really for that challenge, or like, but there's two different factors here. One, it's a very aggressive challenge to kind of push for damage, and it's a very late game card, right? So it's kind of nice as a one of just being put in weird scenarios where you go stun into another stun, and then that Diana just really hard to kind of deal with and play around. It just kind of sweeps through with that challenge. But it also has some early game sense with the power cascades, which is quite nice.
Yeah. Diana tends to be your turn 4 play when you have the attack token on turn 4 because the Daybreak archetype lacks a strong play on that turn. Some people tend to forget that Twilight Protector is, while also being one of the best Daybreak cards, is also a Nightfall card. So you can actually like play Diana to Twilight Protector. Diana becomes a 3-2 challenger, and then with Pill, she's a 4-3 challenger, which like obviously doesn't happen all the time because it's like requires 3 cards to happen. But like it does mean that Diana has potential to remove cards that are bigger than her size, which is like important because one of the main things you lose by cutting Samira from this deck is the ability to give your big units challenger to pull your opponent's big units. And Diana, while not the perfect replacement, is sometimes a card that can simulate that feeling.
Yeah. Otherwise, yeah, there is quite other ways you can do it. Well, that's why we see so many like different lists, right? And I feel like not much people have kind of. It's weird because like not much people have found the sweet spot of like what they want to use instead of Samira. But this has been it's been around for so long as a deck that like it's weird to not be like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna run Kale or I'm gonna run Diana. But it just really comes down to what certain circumstance you want, and even these lists of running pirouette now make things very interesting for a deck building standpoint.
Yeah, Pirouette's one of my favorite cards in the game ever. I'm like super impressed with the design team on that card. It goes, if your deck has Noxus colors in it, it just goes into it pretty much 90% of the time. And like it never feels too oppressive, but it's just a really cool card because it's so versatile. It's almost like replaced what Flock used to be in Noxus.
I I really like it just as a weird tempo card, right? Like you could even make red Glen again. Like Samira Glen and then just run Pirouette instead of Arachnoid. And I think you would have some like success. I
Mhm.
actually thought about it, and I know other people like even Spitzers thought about it, and like I reckon that deck could be good, right? But you just have so much other stuff that kind of overperforms, like this Varus deck, which can't really give it that much light. But it could find a niche, and Purette just in general is such a nice card that it is a very interesting replacement to Arachnoid. But we are into this game now, and it looks like it is Aatrox versus Caitlyn. Let's just say Shurima, so Roji is happy. But Caitlyn, Annie, which is actually the PNZ Noxus deck.
Yeah. So this matchup is going to be a lot about the tough keyword. The tough keyword and the darkened spear. These cards are very important from the Aatrox side because they do a couple of things. They make the Noxus PNZ removal very awkward because they're very ping based. The other thing they do that's really important is that they absorb flash bombs in the best possible way. And the way Annie Caitlyn is built, it's a lot more of a flash bomb deck nowadays than it used to be.
And like this defector is kind of what you want to find, but they don't find it, unfortunately. You do have the cultist here, the blooded it is, sorry, but you don't really have a good unit to put it on besides the Valor. And Big Fish Gaming Bass is just, yeah, drawing another piece of removal and getting ready to probably slam Caitlyn on free.
Yeah, it needs to be said that Valor is like by far your worst unit in this deck in this kind of matchup because it almost never like the thing with Valor is that like it almost never has time to be equipped and you really need to be finding the window to equip your cards, even if they die, because they either get equipped with bloodletters, which makes them have value, or even if it's not a bloodletters, it allows you to progress your Aatrox tutor, which allows you to scale really well into the late game, into these kinds of matchups.
Yeah. And just thinking long and hard about this, like, do I want to give up my vein early, or do I want to try and just pressure with these loyal badger bears? And I feel like, sure, it looks decent to play Vayne, but I actually really like playing these Badger Bears here because if I can kind of just like put the threat of these Badger Bears, especially with these potential like, you know, weapons, and then they put removal onto that. This Vayne's just kind of snowball later and make things very awkward. But I could be wrong. What do you think, Ash?
I'm in agreement with you because I think like look at the line they just took. They went from Vayne into Spear into the attack to get the Spear proc, and if you were going for this line, Badger Bear was almost always better.
For sure. And it's like, wow, okay. I mean, I guess there is reason why you wouldn't block Bela Caitlyn. I guess like the catch is something, and you can still just kind of attack with the Caitlyn here, but we also pick up another Mystic shot. But on the other hand, Tron does actually find a form up here, and we're shuffling someone in. I assume that is. What do you
That
think? I didn't actually see. Was that
I
Disintegrate or
think
Mystic?
that's drum solo. I think that's drum solo because from our perspective, the production, it looks like they did Mystic Shot, but the hand is actually mirrored, right? Because the screen is from Tron's POV. So I think they duplicated the drum solos, but I'm not 100% sure.
Scoping the area.
Right. We just throw out the Caitlyn here, but unfortunately, this catch should be able to stop this. You know, they block it with the 3/5, they Mystic, and the catch is there. But I think that is actually kind of fine. Like if we get those resources out as the Caitlyn, we're actually really happy there. And we've also got form up on the basis, so this still works the same way. And I think they try to disintegrate here to use with Caitlyn as a quick
Yeah,
attack.
they're going to disintegrate here because if you Mystic, you are bad into combat tricks. This makes sense. Get rid of this. I still wonder if it was correct to block the Vayne and disintegrate her when she swung. You draw the Fleet Feather Tracker. That's a pretty good draw because that's a unit with high HP that also pulls the Caitlyn, so it gets rid of the threat.
And we also do see what the Imperfectionist did actually throw in, and that
Yeah,
was Drum Solo. Which
yeah, that checks out.
but the problem with Noxus removal is that it's usually always 2-for-1, right? So it's warranted why they did this because you find yourself in positions where you really do need a draw, and now like effectively it's a 0 mana draw two. So I really actually do like that kind of imperfectionist pull. And back to the game state, this is looking somewhat appealing for Tron. I mean, now we have the Bloodletters, we also have the Badge Bear with the form up, right? And form up just going to be absolutely not an absolute demise, but it just gets slightly inconvenient for Big Fish.
I think I am willing to slightly criticize multiplicating the drum solos because you already have two of them in your hand, so you're not extremely light on draw. But what you're extremely light on is ways to keep removing units as you scale into the late game because Aatrox is not the kind of deck that's going to just run out of cards. They're going to grind against you and it's going to work a decent chunk of the time. Kind of feel like playing the Evil K on Disintegrate was maybe a better idea. What do you think, Annie?
Um, you kind of run into the same problem though, because then now you need actual removal, and you can't really justify that you're gonna be holding onto that removal for a while, right?
You draw into
So
it, right? You copy the
well, yeah,
Disintegrate.
but I don't think you can guarantee that because what if you draw into your other disintegrates, and then now it just gets like an unequal amount of like
So was it?
disintegrate
So
and
was
removal.
the Evil K too early? Were they supposed to play it later?
I think so. I feel like you have other opportunities where you can actually maybe even drum solo first, and then maybe find something like a minor reduction card, and then you know imperfect that. But I think like it also isn't horrible because you put it on board, but overall, yeah, nah, like you should maybe have waited onto it because these jump solos, sure, they do draw, and I thought it was a good thing, but you do put the up a decent point of like, you might be not having this availability to draw. It's really hard to say, but
No, I agree with you in the sense that like it probably just like was better to just wait and not play Evil K at the point that they did because Like the more cards you draw, the better information you have on what you need to duplicate. Looking at the board state though, I would say that the Aatrox player is not too unhappy here.
No, I think you're fine as the Aatrox player. Like, you found the spot where somehow you got onto board and they don't really deal with it as much. Like, I feel like the biggest factor of this game was actually not blocking with Caitlyn. Like, I felt like if we blocked with Caitlyn on turn 3 and then just went to try and kill the Vayne, it probably would have been more ideal, and you would have been in a situation now where this isn't happening. Because now we have the opportunity where we can kind of find this access of just like tumbling really conveniently into the board, and like you don't really want to be seeing this at all.
I'm actually not a big fan of the stumble. I think you're supposed to hold it until you are able to threaten a more aggressive
Wow,
tumble on your opponent's attack token.
I'm
Uh,
surprised we passed it. Sorry, like was it not right to just like block that and disintegrate it, and then now you also have like jump solo stuff, or is jump solo already procced?
it's
Okay,
already
it's
proc. It's already procced. Also, the Darken Aegis is a massive top deck because it draws you into Aatrox. I think like this is a very very good position to be in for Tron.
yeah. I feel like you're slightly behind now because you still didn't disintegrate that. Which is it's hard to say like, oh yeah, do I really want to just block this and only use it disintegrate as deal two? But I understand why they're holding it for the Aatrox, but I don't know. Like we have so much draw. The potential of us drawing into the removal we want is very high.
Yeah, uh, it's really hard to like say exactly what I like think should be going on because I'm not the best player at playing these PNZ flock kind of decks. But I can tell you from the Aatrox perspective, looking at the hand that your opponent has here, you should be very, very comfortable going into the late game.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's quite a bit of decision making here, and we do just throw down the bottle letters. Big Fish Gaming is gonna just like take their time with this, understand what they have to really deal for here, and the Caitlyn like the Caitlyn was a pretty good top deck because you have the availability to have that disintegrate online. I just like this Aatrox is gonna get really scary though.
Yeah, like imagine if you just like play this Joral here and you draw into an Aatrox that's been buffed by Spear a couple of times. Like the Big Fish Gaming, they don't have a disintegrate activator in their hand at the moment, so it can get really rough depending on what they draw. Oh my god, look at
Wow. Okay. Talk about a dark spear buff. That's quite a bit of a buff indeed. +3 in fact, but I still actually this Aatrox is scary, but maybe holding that disintegrate does help you out here. I also do like this attack somewhat because you are trying to pop the drum solo, get a slight deal 3+2 here, 4 or 5, and yeah, this Aatrox is coming down, and we're really hoping for something here that can deal with it, and we do. We find the high note. Okay, it's all right. It's not as horrible as we thought.
yeah. That was, I guess that's what people call a caster blessing. I kind of called it, and then they kind of hit it. It's wild. But yeah, it will be met very efficiently with the high node disintegrate. We also draw into the Broadwing, which we're very happy to draw into because that means we have an engine that's stable and that can make our removal a lot more efficient as we go into the later stages of the game where the Aatrox player is going to have units with a lot more HP, which will be a lot more problematic for the Noxus PNZ tech to remove, if not for the Broadwing.
Yeah. I mean, like, yeah, the Broadwing really helps after this turn, but this turn is still scary with the Aatrox, right? It really
Absolutely.
depends. Like, sure, we have the high note, but we're only really killing one thing here, and we really like, sure, like The drum solo we'd have to like try and get another mystic and stuff, but I don't even think that's really enough here. So let's just think about what's happening right now. We like sure they play Aatrox, we kill it, then they still have a decent attack. Like
Is decent, yeah. It's gonna put like Big Fish Gaming behind just by a little bit, but I'm not fully sure how this game is going to go. To be honest with you, because like so the Aatrox dies, you're going to swing, apply pressure. It forces a decent amount of block because Big Fish Gaming is on 9 HP. But if you go to next turn and is the high note, no, you have to use the high note this turn. So you're gonna need to like broad main into drum solo and hope to draw into like what, a bunch of caustic riffs, and the caustic riffs aren't even that good because there's like a bunch of units with a tough keyword on the board.
yeah.
So yeah, it doesn't look amazing. You're right. It's definitely like not the end of the world here for Tron when they get disintegrated here.
Like, don't get me wrong, there still is outs. Like, you still have that broad. Whoa, hello.
Oh no, we're just going to block the Aatrox and zero mana disintegrated.
Okay, yeah, this is why they're playing, all right? Yeah, okay, no, that makes a lot of sense. I like this lineup a lot better now. It makes the board state still a bit iffy, but we
It's better
remove
than
that
what it
tough.
would have been. It's better than what it would have been for sure.
Being able to actually just remove that puff is very important as well. Because like that Jarol's always gonna stick around, and when you kind of block access for PZ to have any like potential to double removal, and it's just absolutely taxed by mana and stuff like the Jarol, it gets to a point where you could potentially lose. So I do actually like that a lot, and wow, we're even going down to one here.
I think this is correct. I think this
I
is
like
correct.
this.
You need Tibbers. You need Tibbers,
Yeah.
right?
And not only that, but it also gives you the opportunity for more disintegrates. And I feel like disintegrate might be the name of the game here. Obviously, it changes with Broadmain, but having that potential backup's very, very nice. And we get a
Ooh,
formula
that vein is massive.
huge swole.
So we're gonna play the drum solo. We're gonna draw two. We draw Piltover Peacemaker and
Ooh,
Conservatory. These are not bad draws, especially the Conservatory. We're gonna need to cast that to catch up. The main problem here for Big Fish Gaming is that they're at 1 HP. So like almost everything that Tron presents from this point onwards is a threat.
right. Good thing those flash bombs have been kind of bulking up in their deck. So I feel like Big Fish is really trying to rely onto that as well. Uh, Opting into kind of broadmain onto the Badger Bear and just make this attack with Annie be able to flip her, and also just like have the capabilities of just even peacemakering something so it's a bit better. But like you were saying, now Tron only really has to go wide. Like wide's what they're trying to aim for. Basically, ditch as much stuff as possible, but you can also set up traps as well, like with potential, I don't know, Aatrox players trying to get it back in, even though it's a lot scarier. There's quite a couple things you can do here.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's an optimal way to like cycle your weapons here to maximize HP. They decide to just go for this to give the Elkin the regen, which also like is like completely reasonable. The Annie flips here, which means that you need to open attack, which like might end up causing issues for Tron if like Big Fish Gaming draws into the right combination of spells. But in the current state of the board and each player's hands, I do think that when Tron open attacks next turn, they are successfully killing them.
So, like, okay, we have 5 units on board, right? And
Yeah, we have.
then we have Peacemaker to kind of combat with anything. We also have Draw, so we kind of need 2 more things here, and then
Mhm. Yes.
we're so like, which is doable, especially if you can actually just like get a flash bomb as well. So maybe we pre-commit the Peacemaker, flows activated, and then you can probably find something. So I feel like it's getting really close here, but I think actually Big Fish Gaming might be fine. Like you have a lot of draw. They to kind of cycle in that imperfectionist the drum solo for a reason here, and it's getting really tight. But I feel like them knowing the deck's weaknesses and playing for it to be accessed in another sense is very impactful here. And Tron just throws out the +2/+2 here, getting away from this flash bombs, but uh, I assume Bloodmane doesn't work with it. I guess because it's not a spell. Or
I think their idea is to. So the idea to play the +2/+2 is to fully heal this unit, right?
yeah, okay.
Yeah. So you might be incentivized to play Pote over Peacemaker here, but I'm not sure. Big Fish Gaming running out of time.
And that's the problem when you do backseat. A lot of things to think about, and yeah, means that this is held up. We do get a flash bomb on the probably the most unit you don't want to see. The one that is injured. You really wanted that on the 4-3 here and has availability to swing. But saying that as well, Tron did not play any other cards here, so their access of a lethal has shortened. They don't really have that availability and gives Big Fish Gaming a bit more time, but time is also running out. They play the formula.
Wow.
This is really scary here. Tapping as anything is not what you want to see, and I we might be double peacemakering here on the 5/5.
Wow. Yeah. I think this is a time crunch. I think this line was like very risky and was
Just
probably not what you would go for if you felt like you had time. But
yep.
that's one of the things about the collaborative backseating set. You're gonna need to be very good at communicating with your teammates, or else you're going to end up in these kinds of positions. And now it's very easy for Tron. You play Vayne, and you play Valor, and you tumble the Valor, and the game is over.
Oh, you tumble anything really. It doesn't
Yeah,
matter because
yeah.
they are
Actually,
dead.
tumbling the Valor is wrong. Tumbling the Valor is wrong. You just tumble a unit with high HP. Yeah.
Because they still might have like a mystic or something.
Yes.
And yeah, Vayne finally finds that pressure aspect or that last damage you need, making them use as much as they can, try and draw the potential to stop that out. But yep, that was it. We do have another game, but very, very close round for Big Fish versus Tron.
Yeah, this could have easily gone the other way, and like I did feel like the backseating element was really, really like explicitly just shown during that game. Um, Big picture though, it's very good for Tron because Aatrox got a win, which means that we don't need to win with Aatrox anymore.
Yeah, because that was the liability. Tron
Yes.
really wanted to get that out, and now they have a deck that is, pretty decent. I don't actually know this matchup, Hash. You're probably more familiar with it. Who wins this for one, and what are like each player kind of looking for?
So this matchup is favored for Samira Varus. It's not overwhelmingly favored, but the reason why it is because Samir Varus has enough early game that even that like manages to block down the Leona player, and then you transition into this kind of like Samira game where you just like challenge your opponent's units, or alternatively, if you don't have Samira, you just play Keeper of the Box. You put an equipment on Keeper of the Box, and then you just protect the Keeper of the Box for the entire game. Um, and then eventually you just win because of Varus. Um, so the matchup is like comfortable for Samira Varus, but it is extremely winnable for the Leona side with a good hand and with an understanding of the matchup, focusing on stuff like making sure Leona has barrier so she can pull the lifesteal unit, for example, among other things. Definitely allow you to have an edge.
You know what my brain just went to when you said, "Oh, play box lifesteal and then play one other unit that goes big." Just Lee Sin. I
Yeah,
just felt like you just basically said, "Oh yeah, this is what you want to do. You want to play Iron Dragon, play some spells, neutralize the mid game, stabilize, heal up, and then play your big boy."
Listen,
That's
I,
what it
I
felt
I was
like.
playing Eternal earlier today, and I was playing Samira Lee Sin.
Oh yeah, that sounds like a hash thing.
Yeah, that deck was so fun. I miss Lee, but yeah, like no, you are saying it as a joke, but like quite literally, this deck's parallels with Lee Sin are through the roof. They're very very similar.
It has a very aggressive attitude to it as well, though, right? It's almost like if Zed Lee Sin was the deck that you would refer it to out of any of the Lee Sin, alterations. It would probably be that one, just because like the capabilities with Samira to be kind of just being that aggression early and putting it up with the gas is kind of unparalleled with any other card, and it really shows why anyone tries to slot it into a deck because it does, become something that you have to deal with.
Yeah, absolutely. And like as you were saying, it's a lot more aggressive about how it like plays the game compared to like traditional Lee Sin, but there are elements that are a little similar, and I this is like one of my favorite decks in the game, by far. Like it's so much fun, just like these kind of dirtily decks that like stay on the board for a while and then have this like really big finisher, and sometimes you just draw Samira and you accidentally like win the game in the process of trying to defend your board and your game state. It's like really really fun. I just love combo. I know you love combo as well, Annie.
I do, and like it's also a really interesting deck because it feels like a understanding and an evolution of AK Varus due to the
Yeah.
rotation, right?
Yes.
Like because Shurima isn't a region, you just go, okay, what is a region and what works really well with Varus? Oh, Noxus, right? Because like Samira, we've been saying is just absolutely insane, and then Noxus actually has the utility type of tools right now that Shurima doesn't. Why it can kind of combat uh, in the meta right now, and we see a lot of decks, be Noxus.
Yeah, so Samira was just bound to be like the Samira momentous choice. Like that interaction was bound to become a deck, right? It's just way too strong. Momentous choice has been in the meta ever since the card has come out, and a lot of the times it's not been because of the decks; it's been because of the card itself.
Yeah, like you could kind of do it with the Ionia versions. Like Riven Samira could have been an idea, but it's just not as strong as reliable as Varus. Like Varus is a very nice package, and like I was saying, these lifesteals are a worry. Like this lifesteal right now, even if it just trades into the free to, it's pretty decent. And Tron is really thinking, how are they going to get around this? Like, do they even really want to be playing into this? Even play Momentous and lose our Sun Guardian if we attack with it, so that's why we hold it back, and that might just be the case.
Yeah, I think protecting your Sun Guardian, especially given the hand that you have, is very reasonable. Is a very reasonable choice. The problem here is actually, I think, from Big Fish Gaming's side, where you do have basically like Eye of the Dragon, but you don't actually have a way to win the game, and your opponent's going to be stunning your board soon. And the stuns are like quite problematic for you to deal with. So you're gonna need to draw a little bit. Ah, that's so perfect. That actually might win the game on the spot. Wow, that's amazing.
Talking about how do we win the game here, we just
Wow.
top pick Samira. Okay, Samira is pretty good, but it's especially good with a weapon here. Holy moly, this is quite nice. Leona can't do much here because of the 4-2 being higher than Samira, and you don't. I feel like you don't even really want to play it now, but they do anyway, and this is
This Leona dead? This Leona's dead.
it's it's lit. It's dead. It's gone. It's
Yeah.
we're talking about you know day day people making lemonade because the sun is so good, but not anymore. This is the
Okay,
opposite
that,
of
that
lemonade.
time that time it was funny, Annie. That time it
Oh,
was
thanks.
funny.
I was really trying to think about it, but this is a scenario when you just accidentally hit all your lemonade cups and they're just down on the grass and you're out of business as a I don't know 5-year-old kid trying to live your way through life and Samira is going to kill this here. The momentous with the weapon. You could even be a bit cheeky here with the double gem, which
You don't even play Momentous, you play All Out, right?
you can do a lot of things. But I think maybe you want to hit Momentous because you want to try and like Momentous sometimes is a bit weird to play. And if
I
you
guess
get
since
Varus
you have
fast,
the flare in circulation, you should be able to just play Momentous and hold the All Out for later. Yeah, that's fair.
yeah.
Yeah,
Like
that's fair.
I really do just want to know that I'm going to get my Varus here, and especially when my defensive turn might just
Th-
be
This
uh
is just lethal on turn 7. This is turn 5. Turn 7 is probably lethal because what you're going to do next turn is you're going to freeze and draw your Varus, I think. And then you draw your Varus and you win the game. Okay, we drew Wielder, so we don't even need to freeze. Yeah, this looks like this Samira draw like flipped the game completely. Imagine if there was no Samira, like Tron would be in a much more comfortable position.
that top deck really solidifying any chance to really put pressure here, and that's what they do. They get the Samira out, and now Tron has to think, what am I doing? I didn't even want to attack with the Sun Guardian before. Am I just really killing the stunned unit? And I kind of have to. And that's probably what they're doing there, killing it off, but unfortunate because you can keep this alive and flip the Samira while
Yeah,
also killing the Leona.
you're almost certainly going to be doing all of these things that you just mentioned, I think, because like it's just extremely worth it because it means next time you get to develop your Varus and you're not worried about a stun.
Yeah. Yeah, I really want this Leona off the board, right? Like we could freeze, but being able to kill the Leona right away, I'll be all for it. And let's see if that is the case.
Yeah,
That's the beauty with backsetting. They might even have another line, but I assume that is what they're going for because they do play the all out here.
yep, this is the line that they elect to go for, and this line makes perfect sense. There's at this point in the game, there's 2 Leonas gone. The Samira Varus player is at 14 HP, and there's 2 lifesteal units on the board. If this is not an extremely winning position, I don't know what is.
Can we rally next turn?
Yes, the game is over.
Right. Yeah, because we have 4 spells that we can actually play here, and then we also get another one, and then it's
Samira's already
played
at 1.
two. Yeah,
Samira's
okay.
already
So
at 1.
this is actually just lethal. Like I guess we oh okay. I mean it doesn't even matter now. I was gonna say oh maybe you gem to heal it out of further, but now momentous means you can just be kind of reckless and like plus with a Varus this is just completely game.
Yeah, this was just an explosion. This game looked very playable for both sides, and then Samira like completely flipped that on her own. It just shows like the sheer power of this new card. She
You,
is like
you
by far the best card in the game right now. I know some people think that All Out is better. That might be true, but Samira is
honestly.
insane.
Yeah. And it's like looking at this now is you can be kind of cheeky and just like challenge on the 1-free and push even more damage here. Like there's some
Yeah,
really interesting lines and Tron shouldn't do the best to play around this, but it's just not going to be enough. Like you have an 8-5 here that's going to be rolling and it's going to be like a 12 something. Uh, Double fervor coming out might be okay.
it's not because you're just killing them with Varus. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't matter. It's like as you said, you're going to let this go. You're going to give flair to the Varus and gem it. Maybe it's not exactly like maybe not exactly 19, but I think it should be right. So
Oh,
you go flare goes to 10, 10 minus 3, 7. Okay, we do
this
this
was
instead.
8. We can
Yeah,
challenge it.
this should be
11.
lethal. This should be lethal. This should be lethal. Yeah, because it's 7 plus 8. Yeah. It's lethal.
Wow. Big Fish Gaming showing why this deck is kind of nuts here.
Oh,
We
oh.
don't clear. Oh, now that's awkward. They're making me look silly. I was gonna say, yo, and they pop off, they win. Oh, that's crazy. Let's go wild. But now they just don't. I guess maybe they're maxed out.
I don't think they were.
Okay. I mean, sure. I mean, backseating like that kind of happens. It doesn't matter. Like they win anyway, but it's just funny. I hope
Yeah,
they win.
it shouldn't matter, but we did just miss lethal.
Yeah, we ignore those. I guess like other things is we could have maybe jammed as well, just like play around double feather. That could have been a line,
Yeah, yeah.
but
I mean, like the reality of it is that it doesn't really matter at the end of the day.
like you just like yeah, Transfer is kind of like yeah, we're just like yeah, losing.
Yeah, this is
But,
pretty hopeless. Like
uh,
you can even press OK, you can freeze for fun, you can do whatever you want in this position, really.
in whirling death as well. Like there's a lot of funny things.
Hmm.
Do we even want to try and lose a unit? Like, what's our baseline of survival here?
I'm like very lost as to why Big Fish Gaming is thinking in this position.
It's like it's to help the team spirit, to make sure
I,
they do optimal lines no matter what. And
yeah, like I
let's
guess
not flash back to what just happened before, but
we're gonna go
uh,
for this line, which is
it's
cooked.
fine. Like it's probably the most unoptimal line you could have chosen, but sure, all right. You could have like did that on the Varus or
Yeah,
something.
this is funny. This is funny. We're gonna play the Naganica next turn.
No, we don't. Oh my. Okay. Are they? Is this really what they're deluding to? They're like, you know what? What follows? It will be funny if we just eight drop it.
Ah, Sag. We're just going to
No,
open
they could. They talk. Surely.
boring.
Maybe they do. Uh, surely. Come on. Why did we do that willing death play then? It made no sense.
I mean,
Uh,
yeah, it doesn't matter. It's whatever. Yeah, we see the spell that does nothing come down and takes the set to a 1-1. So what's the matchup that we're gonna see? We're gonna see Leona against Annie Caitlyn. Okay, yeah, we're gonna see Leona against Annie Caitlyn. This was a very explosive game. It just like showcased the power of Samira Varus very, very, very strongly. Like as I said, the game looked fine, and then one player drew Samira, and the game just ended on the spot. It was really insane.
Yeah, like that's actually the first time I've seen Samira Varus in action, believe it or not, and it almost has parallels to what Samira Fizz does, but you have all this tools that are reliable. Like Samira Fizz kind of falls off at a point where you have opportunities or potential where you can't really find that reliability, and Samira Varus just feels like that part where you do that deck that has that removal, has that life steal, and doesn't need to make risky plays to just like absolutely demolish your opponents, and that's what we saw. And something we see right now is Big Fish Gaming is they're jamming out. They got a bit of a hand, which is a bit of a music festival. If I was playing music right now, I would be pretty jamming with this.
I heard you like some caustic riffs, brother.
Oh yeah, bro. I love me some caustic riffs. I jam out all the time. It would be perfect. Like, if you were making a montage, you'd start off the music with this. You just like you start. I don't know why, but you'd be making a montage. Maybe someone has a YouTube channel. And
Seraphine is very happy right now.
yeah.
Okay, never
Only if
mind.
this was a Seraphine. Like maybe right? That is the secret to Seraphine. If you have three caustic riffs and a drum solo, you just generate one, which seems uh somewhat in theme with Seraphine because like she just randomly generates stuff anyway.
Yeah, no, that adds up. That adds up. I don't know too much about this matchup because I haven't really seen much of it going around because these are like the Noxus PNZ deck is not that popular. This meta. Do you have any idea how this is supposed to go? Any?
Yeah, so I've played Noctis PNZ before quite a bit, but it's in a different type of deck. It's a Samira Heimer, and it has a very good way of adding board, and then you have the same removal tools. But the thing is, you need that board. Otherwise, this matchup gets really iffy, and you can't really rely on slowing down the game because, well, Samira will just kind of get there, and they'll keep putting pressure to a point where you just can't deal with it. So I'm looking at this deck, and I'm finding a few problems here. One, you